The Physician's Road. Create your life in medicine on your own terms. Today, we are on the path of personal development.
The Physician's Road is brought to you by Vernonville Asset Management. Vernonville Asset Management was created to help physicians build wealth and create income beyond Wall Street. Through our exclusive private investments, doctors can begin to free themselves from the burdensome regulations in healthcare by creating income streams independent of medicine. Go to IncomeBeyondWallStreet.com to get your free report, Wall Street's Biggest Lie. Again, go to IncomeBeyondWallStreet.com to get Wall Street's Biggest Lie and free yourself today.
Hey everyone, this is Dr. Eric Tait here again on the Physician's Road podcast. Today, we're on the path of personal development, and we actually have our first repeat guest, Dr. Mike Woo-Ming. Mike, how are you doing?
How you doing, Eric? Great to be here.
Great, thanks. And so we'll go through your background a little bit. And so the big reason why we want to have you on is you've got another Bootcamp MD coming up in October, and I have the distinct pleasure of being able to speak on that again. And so I'm going to be happy to be joining you guys. We did one in January back in San Diego, and now we're going to go to the East Coast in October in Atlanta, so we hope people can come out. But I'm going to go through your background a little bit so that people who didn't listen to the first podcast we had with you, so they have a clear understanding of who you are and why you have a special passion kind of in this space for physicians and physician entrepreneurs. So, Mike, you've had a 2-decade experience as a serial entrepreneur. You've built and sold companies in the online marketing/software industry. And you're also a physician practice owner, and you currently run multiple successful medical clinics. You talk about how you enjoy helping physicians and healthcare entrepreneurs become financially independent by growing, owning, and scaling their own businesses. You also founded Bootstrap MD, which is a consultancy firm to do live events such as what we talked about earlier, Bootcamp MD, and through courses such as Consulting MD to help physicians leverage their knowledge to become physician consultants. You also host a bi-weekly podcast, Bootstrap MD, and you have a YouTube channel. You also have a 1,000+ member physician-only Facebook group, and at the end, I'll give you a chance to kind of let people know where all those things are and how they can interact with them. And so you clearly have a big history in the space in terms of helping physicians. You're a practitioner. You're not just somebody who talks about it and sells information. You do it yourself. And so take people through kind of your educational history and then why you got into the physician entrepreneurial space.
Wow. So now I'm going to give my age here, but basically, I came just like yourself from a family of physicians. My dad was a pediatrician, uncle was a surgeon, cousin's dermatologist, and when I got into practicing medicine, it wasn't what I signed up for. I felt like the creativity and some of the things that I was interested in, like in college and even in medical school, creating my own projects, that was all gone for me. I was working for somebody else. I was in a primary care practice, pretty big practice. And I felt like I was kind of like the low end of the totem pole. I didn't really feel that I had my own way of, I was feeling like more like a cog in a wheel, so to speak. And I've always been entrepreneurial. I came from a line of entrepreneurs. You know, my dad kind of dabbled in network marketing. He bought, a few homes in real estate. But for myself, I've always been someone who likes to have ideas and then implement those ideas. And what I see currently in medicine these days for physicians, we don't have to, rehash everything. We know about burnout. We know about people feeling like, they're burning the candle on both ends. And I think one thing that many physicians are losing is that creativity, the way that they feel like they can implement something. And it doesn't have to be because of what a managed care says or what their bosses say. They feel like they can actually do things on their own. And it doesn't even have to be a for-profit business. It can be a nonprofit. And in my opinion, I feel entrepreneurship, for me, was kind of my way out. It was my way out of letting me have my own ideas, letting me be original, letting me take my imagination and run with it. And that's what I've been doing for the last 20 years, is helping physicians have their own businesses. And we are now in an age where most doctors work for somebody else. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. But to the detriment is you don't have that solo practitioner, the one who kind of starts up his own clinic on their own or her own. And what we see is when they try to start it, they often fail at it. And it's because we have no business acumen. We didn't get anything in medical school. I know you got an MD, MBA. I got zero business skills in medical school. And I really feel, like I said, I think that entrepreneurship is the way.
Perfect. And it seems like it sounds like even though you were kind of trying to free yourself from the shackles of kind of corporatized medicine, that wasn't necessarily your only jumping point to leave. You actually liked business. And so you were going towards a goal as opposed to running away from pain. And can you speak a little bit about that when you're consulting with physicians and when you're talking to them about not just trying to leave something they don't like, but actually moving towards something that they enjoy?
Yeah, that's perfect. It isn't like, most people think, oh, well, you want to be an entrepreneur. You want to be an entrepreneur because you want to make millions of dollars, and that's all well and good. But a lot of times when doctors in particular are unhappy, they feel that the grass is greener on the other side, and they say they'll start this, or they want to invest in this, and you see it all the time, and I see it when I coach these doctors. Is just because it is, they see something like Silicon Valley or the next Facebook, and people say, oh, well, I want to do that. It isn't as easy as you think, that we don't, the media kind of glamorizes it and says, everything's, perfect, and people are in Silicon Valley and they're in these expensive airline chairs, and he's got Elon Musk and he owns, billions of dollars in doing space travel and all those kinds of things. But there's a grind to it, and it's not for everybody. And you could be perfectly happy in a job that allows you more creativity. If you have a project and if you're not happy with what you're doing, first I say get out of what you're doing. But I think today we've got so much opportunity as doctors. We've got telemedicine, we've got non-clinical opportunities, we've got the opportunities to volunteer for like Doctors Without Borders and other great organizations like that. So don't feel like that you're trapped. And that's how I felt. I was trapped. But for me, I preferred entrepreneurship because it was a way for me to kind of channel. And I really felt that I got some validation out of doing it.
Got it. Perfect. And that's great. And yes, absolutely. We have a lot of physician investors kind of on our investment side of things. And it's always about distilling down really what you want out of life, not what you don't want. And focusing heavily on moving towards those things. So let's talk a little bit about kind of Bootstrap MD. What is it? Talk about it from the standpoint of how you help physicians and train them. And then we will move into kind of the conferences and kind of the skills that people can pick up going to the conferences that you put on, and what they can get, what they've gotten out of it in the past and what they can get out of it moving forward into the future. So talk a little about Bootstrap MD.
So Bootstrap MD is something that I've been actually doing off and on for the last 20 years. So when I first left corporate medicine, I started my own business. It was an online business, and we started doing everything from publishing information products like ebooks and such. And then I actually partnered with some tech guys, and we created a software company, small business software, multi-million-dollar software company. And what was interesting is once I got somewhat known in this, I started to teach others how to have their own online business. But one group that I did not want to teach were physicians. Pretty much because I work with physicians, I would be in the operating room or in the emergency room with physicians. And again, there's nothing wrong with it, but you have to understand where I came from. I was with a big group of physicians. When I actually left, medicine, they never really said it to my face, but they were saying, what's Mike doing? Is he crazy? Is he nuts? And I didn't think that they were open to entrepreneurship. Fast forward it to today, where you've got Facebook groups. You've got the biggest Facebook group for doctors is on side gigs. I've got a big group on entrepreneurs, and it's a lot more open to it. But again, the problem that I see, and it's not just limited to physicians, is that shiny object that you talk about. They want to go to the next thing, and they don't realize it's not as easy as it sounds. You need to have business skills, you need to have knowledge, you need to be able to learn how to hustle and grind, as you know, and that's not as easy. So what I did was I started teaching doctors how to develop their own business, everything from an online business to helping them start up their own practice. And for me, I love it. It's not something that is my full-time income. I do it because I enjoy it. I love it. And I did eventually like working with doctors because we're able to connect that maybe a non-physician may not be able to connect. We have skills as doctors that we often underestimate that we have. Just the idea, if you think about when we see a patient, we are trying to understand what their problem is, and we're trying to solve that problem. And again, that's the fundamentals in sales, right? So we do have skills. And so what I've done is creating I created courses. I do some one-on-one coaching every now and then where I help physicians start up their dream business, whatever that is.
Great. And we're going to give you a chance again to talk about that at the end. But what I want to focus on is kind of Bootcamp MD. And so you launched it earlier this year. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of it and to help with it. So talk about that. Talk about why you created a conference and why conferences are so important in the learning process in terms of what you've seen. And I'll just give my own testimonial about conferences. So anyone who knows me and follows me knows I'm a conference junkie. When I want to learn a new skill, I don't just use books and tapes. I actually go to live events with people who actually are doing what it is I want to do. So I can not only interact with those people, but also interact with people in the crowd. Because I found that being around people who will get out of their comfort zone and go to live events to interact, to mix, to mingle, are the kind of people, the caliber of people, and the open-mindedness of people, if that makes sense, that I want to be around. And so talk a little bit about what Bootcamp MD is, why you created it. And then the next question I ask is, what did you learn by doing that first event, and how have you decided to remodel it or change it?
Perfect. So as I mentioned, for the last 2 decades, I've had my own workshops, not just for physicians. I've had it with non-physicians as well. Probably in the last 5 or 10 years, I've basically focused on healthcare for professionals, and it was basically me teaching it to a small group. The thing is ever since what I see is this wave of physicians who want to do side gigs and get involved in their own businesses, my ego is not that big, although my wife would probably disagree with me, that I feel I know everything about entrepreneurship. I don't talk about real estate other than how you can lose money with real estate. But someone like yourself who has the knowledge, you have experience and knowledges that I don't have. And what we did is I started who's actually talking about this kind of stuff? Like yourself, you're pretty active on some of these Facebook groups. Some I've known in the past that I invited to speak as well, but all have different experiences, different knowledge. Maisha Claiborne, who was a family physician who started in physician burnout, and then she now teaches other doctors how to become entrepreneurs. To other speakers who've done some tremendous things outside of medicine. They're all excellent clinicians, but they've also had businesses that have flourished. And what I saw when I went to a typical medical conference, and I assume that the typical conferences that you go to are not your typical CME, go in and back and get that. They didn't have that for doctors. I may be at a big business conference, and maybe I'll see out of 1,000, maybe I'll see 5 to 10, healthcare professionals. Maybe there's not just a doctor, but maybe an RN or something like that. But there wasn't one just for physicians. And like I said, we have a unique set of skills. We have a unique way where we have kind of put off that instant gratification. We sledged on after college and either worked anywhere between 3 to 10 plus years, doing something at a lower pay scale. And eventually, we do and eventually most of us make pretty decent money, but we have that we can actually share. And, when I see a lot of these things like, medical conferences that are in business, some of them that you have attended, I've attended as well. It's surprising how many physicians are not in that leadership role for some of these conferences. It's, again, nothing wrong with what they're doing, but, it's something that I think is well needed. So that's why I started at Bootcamp MD. It was almost on a whim, to be honest, on the first one. It was like, okay, let's do it. Okay, when are you going to do it? Probably in a month and a half. Do you guys want to go? And, someone like yourself said, yeah, I'm on board. So again, I thank you for taking that leap of faith with us. So we had it in January. We've had about a half dozen or so speakers, mostly for physicians. And kind of my litmus test was, I wanted physicians who walk the walk and talk the talk. It wasn't just theory or selling information. All of our speakers, worked less than a day or a day out of the week, or less. And in the other time, what are they doing? They're working on their side businesses. They're working on in real estate. We had someone who was starting up their own podcast. Another one was doing other types of investing. Other one was creating courses online. And, everything that I got back, so we had it. It was great. Unless the speakers are lying to me, I think they enjoyed it as well. You decided to come back for this one that's happening in Atlanta. And so the reason being, I wasn't going to actually do another one this year. One of our speakers that, Maisha, convinced me that I needed to do it on the East Coast. More than convinced me.
Absolutely. She's a forceful personality.
Right. You need to do this on the East Coast. And she also recognized that there is something that is missing for physicians. You don't go to conferences just to get CME. I tell them, if you want to get CME, you come to Bootcamp MD, we're going to make you a crazy medical entrepreneur. Yep. That's what we did. So to follow up on that other question is, when we first did the first Bootcamp MD, we talked about different ways that you can make money outside of medicine, focusing on business building. We did a survey, as in anybody who has an event, I would do a survey afterwards and say, well, what did you think, about it? And the biggest thing that I saw was people wanted to have their own business, but they wanted to develop it online. And that's kind of my bread and butter. Doctors are busy. It's not like they can't open an ice cream store down the street, but there's something about having an online business where you can kind of do it on your own time. You can develop a website on your own time. And, of course, everybody wants to make money, online, having, checks come in your PayPal account and such. And there really wasn't anything like this. So, again, I've had 20 plus years of experience doing stuff like this. And I wanted to have other speakers who spoke on this. So we've got a few speakers like yourself who are returning, and then we've got some new speakers as well who've got experience in this. And that's why we decided to do Bootcamp MD. So that's how we changed the focus. We're going to focus mostly on online businesses.
Great. Perfect. So what I'm hearing you say is that someone who went to the first Bootcamp MD is going to get value from coming to this one as well, because it's going to be almost an adjunct. And so in many ways, the first Bootcamp MD opened the participants' minds. If I'm looking from the people that I spoke with, opened their minds to the possibilities of what was out there. I'm sure it was like first year medical school for them in terms of the amount of information that was being thrown at them, the amount of new kind of material, the amount of new languaging around kind of business and marketing and those kinds of things. And then this one's going to be a little bit more focused in terms of, okay, now I've got an idea. How do I take it to the online space? Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, you might see some familiar faces. As soon as I announced that we're going to have a second one, they signed up the first day. We had some, it was interesting, of course, it was on the West Coast. So we had some West Coast and Midwest. We had one person from England, which was amazing to me, who came in and took the time and flew all the way. So, but I'm in San Diego, so a lot of my events are on the West Coast, and I've always meant to coming out in the East Coast, and occasionally I did that. So we're going to be going into Atlanta, and if you're someone who is wants to start a business, or maybe you have a business right now online, maybe you kind of played around with a podcast, or maybe you started a blog and it's not going to where you want it to go, and you want to learn how to monetize it, I think you definitely want to come in Bootcamp MD. We're going to be teaching things like not only selling your own products, but things like affiliate marketing, which I've experienced as well, where you're selling other people's products and services. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing coming in October.
Great. So that's great. Do you have your full speaker lineup yet, or not?
We do. We haven't announced it. Hopefully I'll get to it this weekend. We pretty much have it set. We've got one or so speakers. We're still kind of getting the yes or no on, but pretty much we've got about a half a dozen speakers that we're going to be having, and we're going to be excited to put this on. It's going to be a blast.
Great. And are you willing to release the dates yet?
Of which yeah, it's on the dates that we're actually doing this is October 5th and 6th.
Got it. That's a Saturday, Sunday, correct?
That's a Saturday, Sunday. Now, we do have an optional course that we recommend, especially for beginners. And that's going to be led by our good friend, Dr. Maisha Claiborne, on mindset on a Friday afternoon. Some people think, well, why do I need mindset? I'm already a successful doctor. I know how to study. I know how to, I'm a driven person. And I get that. But as you would probably attest to, there's a different mindset as being an entrepreneur. Sure, for someone who predominantly works at home or have an office, you have to be incentivized to wake up. It's easy to get distracted. We got all TV, movies, kids, family. It all gets, life gets in the way sometimes. And, working on that blog or editing that podcast, you say, why am I doing all of this? In entrepreneur, it's not like this. Like it's a steady growth through. It's more like this. You got your ups and you got your downs. You got your ups and your downs. And I still do that. And I'm sure you do somewhat to that extent as well, where you're going to have your highs and lows. And that's something where you'd say, well, what are you doing this for? What is it? And that's what we're going to be talking about, mindset. And we're also going to be talking about some preparatory things that you need to have about, having an online business and such, that we're also going to be sharing. And that's an optional for Friday afternoon, but Saturday and Sunday is the meat of the conference. Let's
lock this down for people who are listening so they can understand from a travel standpoint. And so do you have an idea of what time she's starting Friday afternoon? So if they need to get in on Friday morning. So let's lock the times down so people can begin to plan for themselves.
Perfect. Yeah. Friday afternoon is going to be started at 1 p.m. So 1 p.m. going around to about 5 or so p.m. Saturdays and Sundays are about 9 to 5 p.m. So we're telling folks, unless you're on the East Coast, if you're coming from the West Coast, you definitely want to fly in that Thursday night. And if you can, leave that Monday morning if you can. And that's if you're going to go into that optional Friday event. If you're just going to be coming for the weekend event, you want to come in on a Friday and then leave on a Monday.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, is that optional event? Does that cost more? Or is that part of your ticket as well?
Yeah, it's an upsell as you decide to purchase the ticket. You can decide to go in. Uh-huh.
And I would argue, guys, and you asked me, Mike, mindset is everything. Ultimately, I'm a big personal development person. As you can tell, we're on the path of personal development today, right? I have a whole literally pathway about that, because nothing changes until you do, right? Your external life never changes until your internal life does. The only way your internal life changes is if you change your mind to do something differently. So mindset is everything, and getting yourself with an understanding that, I'm about to embark on a completely new thing in this world. It's adjacent to what I do. I have some complementary skill sets, but there's a tweak and a pivot that has to happen, and understanding that it is a journey. It is not going to be, you're not going to be an overnight success. And from a mentality standpoint, especially we as physicians, once we're out and practicing, we're at the pinnacle of our career. There is no up from attending, right? We're where we are. Now, if you're in academics, you can get those academic accolades and whatever that's worth. But in the end, you're practicing at the highest level you're ever going to be, right? It's very different in business. It's because everything constantly changes, you have to constantly be changing. I always make the joke, it takes a lot of hard work to make it look this easy. And so people may look at you and I and say, oh, you guys are They have no idea the sleepless nights, the stress, the training we had to go through, all of those types of things, which I'm more than happy to share with people. I tell them all the time, you have to really commit some time to become the person that you ultimately want to be. We had to do it through medicine. You're going to have to do the same thing through business. It's just not as expensive. And it doesn't take quite as long if you're dedicated to it. So let's talk about so we talked about Bootcamp MD and what that is. So talk about your other businesses now. This is just a commercial for yourself. How can people interact with you as it relates to their business? If they want to start a cash-based practice, or they want to become a consultant, give like a 30 seconds of each business that you have and how you help physicians in kind of your wheelhouse.
I don't know if I can do it in 30 seconds, but I'll...
Well, no, 30 seconds for each thing that you do. So you got about 3 or 4 minutes. So for each thing that you do.
I have businesses, like I said. I own a weight loss clinic, a men's spa. I co-own different types of medical clinics. So that out of the way, I have businesses where I work with other doctors, and primarily, my flagship is Bootstrap MD. Bootstrap MD is basically a consulting agency for doctors who want to have their own business there. The best place to go is bootstrapmd.com. I've got some online courses that you can purchase. I've got some free content you can look at as well, of course. And that's where I'm working with healthcare professionals. So in the past, and currently I'm working with doctors who work on their own online businesses. They're developing their own books, developing their own online courses. Some of them are selling products and services either through Amazon or eBay, and some are selling their knowledge as a consultant. So I talk about how do you price your services, how do you market your services, how do you get traffic to your website, those kinds of things. And that's all available at Bootstrap MD. From that, because of my background owning several different clinics, majority of them are cash-based. That's a skill and knowledge that I wish I had when I first got started, and I couldn't find any doctor willing to teach that. And so what I do is I have a subset of this called Paradise Practice. In Paradise Practice, what it is basically a doctor who wants to set up their own cash-based clinic. So I've been working with doctors who want to set up their weight loss clinic, a age management type clinic. I'm starting to work with doctors who want to start their own ketamine clinic. All these different types of clinics where, again, insurance is not the answer. And to do that, you need to know how to market. Because if you don't know how to market, you're going to be dead in the water. And that's where we come in. And so something that I've lasted will be my 8th year with my own practice. I got a full staff. It kind of runs on its own. It's running right now, and I'm talking with you, my friend. But those first couple of years were really tough. And it wasn't until it was like, hey, I got some marketing knowledge. Why don't I start implementing things like, hey, I got a list of patients. Maybe I should email them every now and then. But just the things is, when I talk with doctors is, hopefully none of my clients are listening, but some of them had no business experience. And if they didn't go to me, they need to have someone who has had some type of bid experience, or I could tell you right now, it would be dead in the water if they launched that business. And it's so much easier to find people who've actually already done it than kind of like figuring out themselves, or worse yet, watching a YouTube video and trying to do it on their own. It doesn't work. You need to find people who've already had success doing it and implementing their knowledge. Because like you said, it's the life of an entrepreneur. They're going to have ups and downs, and I'm there to help them whenever they need help.
Yeah, you hit a nail on the head. I mean, we could have a whole podcast on physicians' resistance to hiring people who can teach them what to do. We won't go into that today because you're another hour and a half, but that's interesting. Now, talk a little bit about the Facebook group. What is your Facebook group and how can physicians join it?
Yeah, just go to Facebook, just type in non-clinical business, and it should come up. And it's a group. We've got 1,000 plus. We talk about, of course, entrepreneurship. It's also a sounding board on things that I do. I produce content in there. Sometimes we'll do Facebook Lives. And if you're someone who's maybe struggling to start a business or don't even know if you need if you should start a business. We've got folks who are very helpful to answer your questions, and it's all about community. And again, it's kind of why I started Bootcamp MD. It's kind of why I started all of these different things is physicians need to start talking to physicians. Oftentimes it feels like it's almost antagonistic. We're not going to become successful if we do that. Probably the best thing that I got out of Bootcamp MD is hearing from some of the attendees where they said, hey, I got together with the so-and-so sitting next to me, and now we've been connecting, and we've been talking on the phone, talking about our different ideas. And that's not even counting, some of the speakers who have developed a relationship with some of these attendees. The other thing, too, that we really make it personable is we have an optional VIP lunch that I know you participated in. And, how many times do speakers and attendees actually, just break bread and just talk, hey, what's going on? And that was one of the biggest things that I got out of the attendees that they loved, was having the opportunity to talk to superstars like Eric, like yourself, and some of the other speakers, and just like, hey, what's going on? I enjoyed it tremendously, and it seemed like the speakers enjoyed it as well, and definitely attendees. So we're bringing that back as well. So it's a great way of having that full interaction.
Great. And so I think we'll end it there. And so, again, we're talking with Dr. Mike Woo-Ming from Bootstrap MD, talking about Bootcamp MD. And Bootcamp MD is the conference that is coming up in Atlanta in October 5th and 6th, with an optional mindset workshop on that Friday the 4th. And I will put all of this on the show notes page. And to get the show notes page and to be able to get access to tickets for the event, you just go to thephysiciansroad.com/bootcampmd and then the number 2, because this is our second one. So Bootcamp MD number 2. And we'll have a link there to be able to get tickets and learn more about the conference in and of itself. And so, again, I want to thank Dr. Mike Woo-Ming for being on the Physician's Road podcast today. If you'd like to check out our Facebook group, you can just go to Facebook, put in the Physician's Road. It will pop up. Please answer the questions, because it is a physician-focused group, so you must answer the questions to get in from there. So thanks again, Mike. Look forward to seeing you in October.
Look forward to connecting with you, Eric. And every time I talk with you, it's always like my mind is, you're always opening up new ideas. I love the physician resistance. I love thinking that rhymes.
Great. See you in a couple of months, man.
All right. Take care.
The Physician's Road is brought to you by Vernonville Asset Management. Vernonville Asset Management was created to help physicians build wealth and create income beyond Wall Street. Through our exclusive private investments, doctors can begin to free themselves from the burdensome regulations in healthcare by creating income streams independent of medicine. Go to IncomeBeyondWallStreet.com to get your free report, Wall Street's Biggest Lie. Again, go to IncomeBeyondWallStreet.com to get Wall Street's Biggest Lie and free yourself today.
Thank you for listening to The Physician's Road, where you create your life in medicine on your own terms. Please go to thephysiciansroad.com and sign up for your free guides and resources.